That night, I had a great time in a bar with a few friends. The lights in the bar were flashing, the music was deafening, and the air was filled with a strong smell of alcohol and enthusiasm. I almost don't remember how I got drunk. My head was fuzzy and the scene in front of me began to blur. In the bar, Ma Chao's appearance was the most conspicuous. He was surrounded by women, enjoying the glory of being the center of attention. At that time, he was simply a real rich man, even though everyone knew that he was just a second-generation rich man who relied on his father's wealth. He smiled and said to me, "Don't worry about it. It will be great to go abroad to study for a master's degree and inherit the family property. You have to take the postgraduate entrance examination in a big university, which is a waste of energy. Do you think I'm still 18 years old? I can drink, have fun, and stay up late." I waved at him. The alcohol was taking effect, and I felt a little dizzy. That night, I drank a little too much. It was already 1 a.m., and I felt dizzy, but I decided to find a place to rest by myself. I called the driver, but suddenly gave up and decided to solve the problem myself. I staggered to the elevator and pressed the number of room 1304. I swiped the card several times, but the door didn't open. I muttered to myself, "Is it the room card that's wrong?" Just as I was hesitating, the door suddenly opened from the inside, and a strong, sweet fragrance hit me. Before I could react, a pair of soft hands suddenly pulled me into the room. I was startled by the sudden beauty, and my mind went blank. She was drunk, her eyes were blurry, but she still pulled me forcefully. I had almost no energy to refuse, and immediately immersed myself in her passion and drunkenness. That night might have been absurd, but it was also full of joy. When I woke up the next day, my head was still aching, but the scene in front of me shocked me even more. She was wearing the clothes from last night, and there was no trace of any left on her neck. She looked noble and cool, and her watch worth 300,000 yuan was thrown on me mercilessly. She stood up with a proud look on her face and said in a calm tone, "You performed well last night. This is a reward for you." After that, she took off her watch and threw it over, then turned and left. The door was slammed shut. I was lying on the bed, almost laughing out of anger. I was just a tool used for entertainment, and they gave me a reward. I couldn't help but laugh at her experienced look. She was obviously a novice, but she pretended to be an expert in love. Thinking about her performance last night, I couldn't help but mutter to myself that it was too easy for me to succeed. However, life is always unexpected. On the first day of school, I ran into her again. That day, I still partied with a few friends in the bar all night until the early morning. Although my body was not as resistant as it was when I was 18, I still persisted to the end. The alcohol had made my mind a little fuzzy, so I decided not to bother the driver and planned to take a taxi to school by myself. Arriving at University A, I was wearing the casual clothes I bought at the bar yesterday, without the lipstick marks she left on me last night. I walked into the campus and was greeted by a group of enthusiastic seniors. They frequently gave me compliments, and one of them even took the initiative to talk to me. "Junior, you are so handsome. Do you have a girlfriend?" I was a little surprised by her words, but I quickly responded, "Thank you, senior. I just got here." Then she led me to the freshman registration office and asked me to fill in the registration information. However, just before I could fully recover from her enthusiasm, my sight suddenly froze. The beautiful lady who had rewarded me on my bed was sitting at the registration desk. She changed out of the black hollow skirt she wore last night and put on simple jeans and a tight t-shirt. She still looked curvy and charming. The moment her eyes met mine, I saw the surprise in her eyes. I couldn't help but smile meaningfully, knowing what she was thinking. Why is the guy who spent a night with me last night here? Her expression changed slightly, and she quickly turned her eyes away and stopped looking at me. I pretended to be calm and walked towards her. "Hello, senior sister. I am the new William." She seemed a little embarrassed and smiled slightly unnaturally. "Oh, Junior William, please fill in the information." Then she handed me a form. When I reached out to take the form, I accidentally touched her soft hand. Her body trembled slightly, and she quickly withdrew her hand as if she had received an electric shock, and her cheeks unconsciously flushed. She said coldly, "You have been admitted to Lei University. You should correct your behavior and do not do anything that will damage the reputation of the school." I raised my eyebrows and couldn't help laughing in my heart. "You really think I'm a gigolo?" Olivia was still sitting upright, her brows slightly furrowed, her cold and elegant temperament making it difficult for people to approach her. She was carefully registering the new student's information, her eyes focused and calm, as if everything was under her control. I quietly checked her background. Although Olivia's family background is not as strong as mine, she is also a real white, rich, and beautiful woman. Her beauty and indifference attracted the attention of many junior and senior students, and everyone hoped to get her favor. I couldn't help but chuckle, thinking that her calmness was just a disguise. After all, I knew her other side. Olivia seemed to feel my gaze. She turned slightly, and when her eyes met mine, she couldn't help but frown, and then gave me a cold eye roll. I saw her gently holding her waist, and suddenly realized that I might have been too passionate last night. After all, she is not an ordinary person. Although that night brought me great pleasure, maybe I should have been more gentle with her. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but grit my teeth, and a trace of regret emerged in my heart. Just as I was immersed in these thoughts, a sweet laugh broke my thoughts. Jessica was wearing a red low-cut hip skirt, walking briskly, and the boys around her followed her eagerly, like the moon surrounded by stars. Her eyes stayed on me for a few seconds, with a flash of surprise and regret in her eyes, but then she adjusted her expression and looked at Olivia sarcastically. "Olivia, you're here really early. Are you waiting for the school director?" Jessica's tone was a little contemptuous. "It's a pity that the Fong family's young master hasn't arrived yet. Your plan may fail." I smiled slightly, but I couldn't help but sigh in my heart. It turned out that they were all waiting for me. I didn't expect that the son of my Fong family could cause such a big response here. What's more, I have changed my name, so no one recognizes me at all. Fortunately, the name I use outside is William, which makes me more calm. I secretly sent a message to the driver, telling him not to pick me up anymore. Since everyone was waiting for the so-called son of the school director, I was not in a hurry to leave. Olivia didn't seem interested in this. She found a shady place and sat down calmly, as if she didn't care about the fight around her. I walked over to her and said jokingly, "Aren't you going to wait for that young man? Look, Jessica and her friends are almost deformed waiting in the hot sun." Olivia glanced at me coldly, her lips moving slightly. Boring. Her eyes were slightly impatient, and it was obvious that she had long been disdainful of everything Jessica said and did. Jessica, obviously impatient, ran over in her high heels with a sarcastic look on her face. "Olivia, you are so lonely that you like all kinds of people?" She glanced at me, obviously not taking me seriously. I couldn't help but sneer, secretly getting angry in my heart. What kind of person is this? I am at least tall, rich, and handsome, and you dare to look down on me? I changed my tone and became more sarcastic. "Jessica, you have been standing on the street for so long. Your eyes must be blurry, right? Even the school director's son looks down on you. You should scratch the rebellious look on your face and stop embarrassing yourself." The atmosphere around us froze instantly, and everyone was stunned. I didn't expect that a new student like me would dare to confront Jessica like this. Olivia's mouth curled up slightly, and a smile flashed in her eyes. She looked at Jessica, so angry that she couldn't speak. I unceremoniously pulled Olivia's arm and prepared to leave. Holding Olivia's wrist tightly, I felt her slight resistance and her face flushed. Seeing her reaction, I couldn't help but tease her. "Aren't you the queen of the sea? Why are you so shy?" Olivia's face turned even redder in an instant. She lowered her head awkwardly and said softly, Don't mention that night anymore. She tried to calm herself down and seemed reluctant to talk about what happened last night. I shrugged and smiled. But you really helped me a lot today. I put my hands in my trouser pockets, moved closer to her, and laughed softly. After all, you gave me the ticket. Does this count as my after-sales service? Olivia seemed to have heard something unpleasant. Her face became even redder, and she kicked my ankle coldly. Shameless. After that, she quickly fled the scene. I grimaced in pain, feeling helpless. I could only stand there, holding my ankle and sighing. In the following days, Olivia seemed to avoid me on purpose, and I gradually adapted to this inexplicable, tense atmosphere in college life. Until that day, we met again in class. In an open class, I sat right behind her, and throughout the whole class, my eyes hardly left her long, smooth hair. Whenever she lowered her head, my eyes would unconsciously follow her movements, as if there was an invisible pulling force that made me unable to extricate myself. Olivia seemed to feel my gaze, and her body began to twist slightly. It was not until the professor called her name that she came back to her senses. Olivia, tell me your opinion. She was obviously distracted and only understood half of what he said. It was not until the professor reminded her again that she regained her composure and began to think. She cleared her throat and said calmly, Professor Lee, I haven't thought about this question clearly yet. Why don't you let William answer it? I raised my eyebrows, feeling a little surprised. I didn't expect her to hold a grudge and take the opportunity to set me up. However, this kind of trivial matter is nothing to me. I stood up and expressed my point of view fluently. I have heard my grandfather and my father discuss this point of view, and I've already grasped it in my mind. After listening to my answer, the professor nodded with satisfaction. Very good. Mr. Fong's insights are very accurate. Olivia also turned her head and glanced at me. There was an unusual light in her eyes. I immediately felt the eyes of the people around me gathered on me. Some girls even whispered, This new student is so handsome. How come he looks so charming? I felt proud for a moment, and then I secretly kicked Olivia's chair, hinting her not to be so cold. After leaving the open classroom, a classmate came to me and asked for my WeChat. I had no interest at first, but suddenly I had an impulse and added their WeChat one by one. At this moment, Olivia turned around and prepared to leave. Her eyes flashed, but she didn't talk to me again. I laughed in my heart and decided to chase her to see her reaction. Why are you running? I walked forward with a smile and blocked her way. Olivia, you're really popular today. Everyone is surrounding you. She responded sarcastically, You'd better not do anything out of line. Her indifference made me more interested in teasing her. At this moment, a male voice suddenly interrupted. Olivia, tomorrow is my birthday. Let's go out and celebrate together. I turned around and saw Ryan. This guy's eyes were full of love, and he almost stared at Olivia. Olivia was obviously a little impatient and stepped back slightly, wanting to refuse him. It's not convenient. But Ryan didn't give her much choice. He said firmly, I have invited everyone in our hospital. You won't refuse, right? As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere became subtle. Everyone knew that if he really invited everyone, it would be inappropriate for Olivia to refuse. Olivia seemed to agree reluctantly, with helplessness in her eyes. I listened to their conversation and laughed in my heart. It was such a coincidence that I happened to be one of them. Ryan's move was obviously an attempt to provoke me, but I didn't buy it. Sure enough, Ryan's next move surprised me. At the birthday party, he took a bouquet of flowers and a cake and was ready to confess his love to Olivia. Everyone around him looked at him, and the atmosphere was a little awkward, but no one dared to speak. Ryan was a typical high-profile, rich second generation with a strong background. His father also had some status in the officialdom, and he had been pursuing Olivia for a long time. Olivia's expression suddenly froze, and she was obviously at a loss for words. I saw her anxious look and couldn't help but laugh. Although she was cold and proud, She obviously couldn't remain calm in the face of such a sudden confession. As Ryan walked towards her, I quietly stretched out my foot, causing him to stumble and fall to the ground like a dog eating shit, with the cake scattering everywhere. I reacted quickly and reached out to pull Olivia over. As a result, the cake fell right on Jessica. She screamed, and the whole bar fell into an awkward silence. Ryan was so angry that his face turned livid, and he got up from the ground in a panic, with an expression that was simply terrifying. Who was the blind one? He growled with gritted teeth and looked at me with anger in his eyes. I blinked innocently and smiled shyly. Sorry, Brother Cohen, I didn't see that my leg stretched out by itself. Ryan was so angry that he was about to spit fire, but because there were too many people around, he couldn't get angry. He could only glare at me coldly and said, "Watch your legs. Don't offend people you shouldn't offend one day." The atmosphere became tense for a while, and Ryan's confession was completely interrupted. Everyone began to restore some of the atmosphere and continued to drink and laugh. Ryan kept staring at Olivia, trying every way to attract her attention. He rolled up his shirt sleeves seemingly unintentionally, revealing his watch, and said proudly, "Olivia, the rhinestones on the collar of your skirt match the decoration of my watch very well today. We are indeed in sync." All eyes in the room were focused on the watch on Ryan's hand. Seeing everyone's reaction, I couldn't help but chuckle. Ryan looked so proud, he really thought he was great. "Oh my God, this is a limited edition watch from Tiga," someone couldn't help but exclaim. "I heard there are only 3 in the world. You can't buy it even if you have money." Seeing everyone's admiring and envious eyes, Ryan smiled modestly and said in a leisurely tone, "No, I just wear it casually. It's not worth mentioning." I sneered in my heart. Looking at the brilliance of the watch, I knew in my heart that it was just a fake. There are only 3 real limited edition Tiga watches in the world, one of which is on display at the Tiga headquarters, the second is in the hands of the second son of Tiga, and the third is in my home. I looked around and saw those people who admired Ryan, and I felt even more disdainful. They were fooled by a fake, which was ridiculous. Ryan seemed to brag about his identity naturally, and every word was full of narcissism. He glanced at Olivia from time to time, obviously thinking that she would be dazzled by his wealth and this fake watch. But Olivia didn't bother to pay attention to him and continued to play with her phone. Ryan didn't seem to realize that Olivia didn't take him seriously at all, but felt more and more that he might have conquered her. He thought Olivia had been conquered by his charm and wanted to kneel down to worship him immediately. I couldn't help but whisper to Olivia, "What kind of peach blossoms did you attract?" Olivia raised her eyelids coldly, pushed me hard, and twisted me lightly with her fingers. "Stop talking," she whispered, although her tone was cold, but I could feel that she was a little unhappy. As the two of us were playing around quietly, Ryan seemed to begin to doubt that he didn't seem to have Olivia's approval. I went to the restroom halfway through the meeting, and when I came back, I found that almost everyone in the box had left. The atmosphere suddenly became a little deserted, and my intuition told me that something was wrong. I hurried back to the box, only to find Olivia, Ryan, and his 2 friends inside. Olivia was obviously not right. Her face was pale, and she seemed to be unable to stand. What made me more alert was that Ryan was hugging her tightly, forcing her to lean on him. "What are you doing?" I shouted angrily and rushed forward immediately. Ryan looked at me with a sneer on his face. "Fragile boy, mind your own business, or you will suffer the consequences." I noticed that Olivia was not in a good condition. Her eyes were a little blurry, and she was obviously drugged. She leaned on my arms and struggled, but her strength was obviously not enough. I sneered, "Let's see who will suffer the consequences." Ryan's 2 friends seemed to want to help, but they were no match for me. I hadn't practiced Sanda for a while, but they were no match for me. 5 minutes later, I knocked them down one by one, and Ryan lay on the ground in pain, holding his stomach and screaming. I snorted coldly, helped Olivia to the side, and turned to leave. During the whole process, Ryan had no room to resist, and his arrogance was instantly broken. Olivia was still leaning in my arms, looking very weak. The effect of her medicine was still taking effect, and she kept tearing at her clothes, seeming to be in great discomfort. My heart tightened, knowing that it was not over yet. I gently pressed her down on the bed and prepared to get some water from the bathroom to sober her up. But just as I was about to get up, she suddenly pulled me back. Her soft, boneless hands grabbed my collar, her eyes sometimes clear and sometimes blurry. "William, help me." I looked at her eyes and was a little stunned. Her words made my heart beat faster, and a complex emotion rose in my heart. "Stop it, Olivia," I whispered, my voice a little hoarse. "I don't know what I'm going to do if you keep going like this." Her hands were still tightly grasping my collar, her eyes full of helplessness and desire. At that moment, my heart was deeply touched by her, as if nothing else mattered. When I woke up the next day, I still felt full of energy. I didn't expect that there would be a second time with Olivia. Compared with the hasty and coldness after the first time, this time, Olivia actually lay in my arms obediently, with her forehead against my chest muscle. Her cold face seemed to become warm, and compared with her usual cold appearance, this soft look was more touching. Olivia turned over, frowned, and slowly opened her eyes. When she saw me naked, her face instantly turned red, and she quickly covered her face with a quilt. She stared at me, her eyes full of anger and shame. I chuckled and pulled the quilt, jokingly saying, "What? You're not going to give me money this time?" I blinked. Oh, I was really forced. I'm a good young lady. Before I could finish my words, Olivia quickly covered my mouth, obviously not wanting to listen to my nonsense anymore. After she put on her clothes, she looked at my back with a worried look in her eyes and said in a low voice, "If you offend Ryan, he won't let you off easily." She lowered her head, wiped her nails, and continued, "You know, I really don't want him to bother you, but you've done so much for me, I won't ignore you." I suddenly felt warm in my heart after hearing this. Olivia's words made me feel a subtle emotion. I curled my lips and smiled. Then it's all thanks to Miss Bai's protection. However, Ryan's grandson, I really want to see how he will be rude to me. Olivia glanced at me and couldn't help stamping her feet. "I don't care what you do. I'd rather you be beaten to death by him." She was obviously dissatisfied with my overly relaxed attitude. Olivia and I returned to school. We met some of my classmates from last night. Seeing Olivia walking next to me intact, they couldn't help but feel guilty. After all, they got Olivia drunk and threw her to Ryan because they were afraid of offending Ryan's family, and he almost succeeded. Instead, I beat Ryan up and took Olivia away. "I'm sorry, Olivia." A girl walked up to her, looking a little guilty. "We really couldn't help you last night. You know, I really need a place under Bodeo, and if I offended Ryan..." Her voice gradually lowered, and she seemed afraid to continue. Seeing this, another girl immediately added, "Ryan is such a toad, wanting to eat swan meat." "Olivia, you are so beautiful. You are more than qualified to accompany the son of the school director. Please, Sister Olivia." Her tone was somewhat flattering. "I heard that the school director's son will be back in 2 days after the ceremony. Why don't you go and accompany him?" Olivia didn't interrupt them, but just nodded slightly, obviously not wanting to say anything more. She frowned and prepared to leave. "I have something to do. I'll leave first." She waved her hand impatiently and prepared to leave quickly. I looked at Olivia's dissatisfied expression, smiled, walked up to her, and teased her. "What's wrong, miss? Even the school director's son is not in your eyes." Olivia shook off my arm and said sarcastically, "If you like that school board boy, go talk to him. How could I be compared to someone like an object?" I thought she was angry and was thinking about apologizing, but suddenly Olivia's eyes turned red and her voice was choked. "Besides, do you really want to push me away?" Seeing the way she looked at the scumbag, my heart trembled. Olivia seemed really hurt. She actually cried in front of me. I immediately realized that I didn't mean that. I leaned over and gently wiped away her tears, feeling a little helpless. Didn't she always look down on me? Why was she crying first now? I calmed her down and sent her back to the dormitory. After that night, the relationship between us seemed to have changed subtly. Although we didn't do those ridiculous things anymore, the atmosphere between us became different. The kind of intimacy and ambiguity seemed to spread invisibly. On this day, the annual ceremony came again. If nothing unexpected happened, Olivia would still be the hostess. After all, her ability and image were impeccable and she was fully qualified for this role. However, suddenly there was a news that the Academy decided to give the host position to Jessica. Olivia paused for a moment, then said calmly, "It's okay, just give it to her. It's not an important occasion." Some people began to speak up for Olivia. Why? You've been preparing for this ceremony for a week, writing articles to lose weight, and only eating one meal a day. Obviously, everyone felt it was unfair. I frowned, feeling confused. Why was there a sudden change? I called to ask before. It was clearly Olivia who was confirmed. Olivia had started preparing for this ceremony a week ago, so why was she suddenly replaced? Olivia didn't say much, just nodded slightly, obviously not wanting these things to affect her mood. Students in the college began to discuss the matter. Some people said, "Did Olivia offend Ryan? His father is the director of the college. Ryan must have asked his father to make things difficult for Olivia." I sneered, knowing that this is how the world is. Sometimes you are right, but as long as you offend someone powerful, nothing is worth mentioning. The reason why Olivia was treated like this was obviously because she offended Ryan, and Ryan happened to have a background. Through the window of the restaurant, I saw Jessica with a group of followers standing in front of Olivia and showing off, obviously trying to put pressure on her. Seeing this scene, I couldn't help but lower my head, quickly took out my phone from my pocket, downloaded a video, and then walked slowly to the director's office. I know that Ryan is never afraid of doing bad things. He relies on his father's background to bully others in the college. Because of this, Director Sue has never restrained him. Today, my mission is to prevent this guy from getting everything he wants. Director Sue was still drinking tea in his office, not realizing I had entered his office. The ceremony list was lying quietly on the table. I gently pulled out the list and quietly crossed out Jessica's name and replaced it with Olivia. After I finished all this, Director Sue finally noticed my presence, put down his teacup abruptly, and his face instantly turned unhappy. Who dares to be so presumptuous? There was obvious dissatisfaction in his voice. I ignored his anger, just smiled calmly, slowly put the phone in front of him, and clicked on the video I had just downloaded. Director Sue stared at the phone screen with his eyes wide open. His face gradually became uglier, as if he had eaten something unclean, and his whole face changed color. "Director Sue, you don't want this video to get out, do you?" I said calmly, but every word was threatening. "I advise you to take good care of your son. Otherwise, he won't even know how he died." Director Sue was speechless for a moment, completely shocked by the video in my hand. He obviously didn't expect that I would find a secret video between him and Jessica. He just watched me take the list from his desk. Jessica having an affair during a break, proving their relationship. Because of this, Jessica was able to run rampant in the academy without any family background. Once this secret is exposed, Director Sue's reputation will be completely ruined. Olivia with the revised registration form. When she saw the list I put in front of her, she was stunned for a moment, with a hint of surprise in her tone. "How could you?" She looked at me, as if she hadn't reacted yet. I tapped her head and said softly, "Okay, let's go and ask the teacher in charge to check it. There is not much time left." I took her and walked towards the teacher in charge's office. As soon as I entered the room, I saw the teacher in charge stand up. When he saw me, he immediately smiled. "William, why are you here?" But I didn't let him continue and interrupted him directly. "Teacher, please check the list and give Olivia the script," I said coldly. The teacher in charge was stunned for a moment, then looked down at the list with a hint of confusion in his eyes. Hasn't Director Sue replaced her with Jessica? Why is she? But when I gave him a threatening look, he immediately shut up, smiled, and nodded. Okay, no problem. Olivia followed me out of the office in confusion. It was not until we walked out the door that she couldn't help asking, why am I the one again? Who did I offend? I shrugged and smiled. Who knows? Maybe Jessica offended some big boss and was replaced. I looked at her mischievously. As for me, maybe I'm doing you a small favor. Olivia glared at me, lifted a strand of hair, and said seriously, William, are you hiding something from me? I couldn't help but smile and shrugged. Most of the investment in this school was made by my family. Don't you believe it? She smiled and pinched my face, obviously thinking I was joking. You're so good at talking nonsense. At this time, the news about the replacement of the host spread throughout the school, and someone even wrote a short essay and posted it on the school forum. The article analyzed in detail the possible interest gain behind this incident, and even speculated that it was probably due to the competition between director Sue and the big boss behind Jessica. Soon, some photos and videos began to circulate on the internet. Someone took a picture of Jessica crying outside director Sue's office, and all of this was quickly uploaded to the forum and became the focus of attention. The post was quickly reported and deleted, but the story of Olivia and I was circulated within the school. I became her flower protector, and some people even began to speculate about our relationship. Oh my God, William is pursuing Olivia? What pursuit? He's just Olivia's bootlicker. This sentence caused a stir in the forum, and everyone was discussing it. I turned my head and saw Olivia frowning and looking at her phone. She seemed unhappy and was looking through the comments that were unfriendly to her. I leaned over to take a look and found that she was seriously reporting the comments that insulted me. Seeing her reporting so seriously, my heart skipped a beat, and I had an indescribable feeling in my heart, as if I was moved by some emotion. The ceremony was getting closer and closer, and Olivia was busy rehearsing. She acted very professionally, but she was obviously still worried about the troubles. My father kept urging me to have dinner with the principal today. I was distracted and walked with Olivia by the lake, and suddenly I saw Jessica from a distance. She came to the lake in a long white dress and high heels. Olivia and I hid behind a tree and listened quietly to Jessica talking to someone on the phone. This time the news is definitely correct. The school director will definitely pass by here today. Jessica's voice was full of pride. As long as he passes by, he will definitely be attracted to me. She was full of pride and had already begun to imagine that she could get rid of Director Sue's control through the school director's son and replace him. I listened to her words and sneered in my heart. Jessica was just self-righteous. However, what happened next happened extremely suddenly. Olivia accidentally fell and was directly exposed to Jessica's sight. Seeing us, Jessica's face instantly turned ferocious, and she angrily said, "You actually eavesdropped. Olivia, are you disgusting? Are you afraid that I will snatch the school director's son away? So you actually followed me?" Her words were filled with piercing contempt, and she then mocked Olivia's ordinary dress. Do you really think the school director's son will be interested in you? People like you are only fit to be with a poor guy like William. I sneered, and seeing Jessica's arrogant look, I quickly picked up my phone and sent a few messages to the driver. Today's drama has just begun. Olivia glanced at Jessica, obviously speechless about her performance, and pulled me to leave. Are you imagining something? Olivia said in a low voice, but with obvious disdain. We didn't eavesdrop at all. We had just walked a few steps when suddenly a Maybach slowly drove over. Jessica also saw this conspicuous luxury car, and her face changed instantly, and she immediately stopped cursing. Her expression instantly changed from arrogance to panic, and she fell to her knees at Olivia's feet. Olivia, I was really wrong. Jessica's eyes were filled with tears, like a weak woman who had never seen the world. I didn't mean to compete with you for the host position. I just I wanted to take a look at Master Fong. She sobbed. Her acting was first-rate. Olivia was stunned, looking at her face full of tears, obviously confused. Jessica's acting seemed to have really confused her, and the whole person looked both pitiful and disgusting. However, the Maybach really stopped by the lake, and Jessica's mood changed instantly. There was a glimmer of hope in her eyes, and she obviously thought she was about to win. The script she thought was about to be performed, and she no longer concealed her pride. But when the car door opened, the person who came out was not the school director she was expecting, but the driver of the car. Jessica's face instantly changed from joy to anger. She had not expected all this. The driver, wearing black leather shoes, walked towards Jessica steadily, and she still made an expression that she thought would attract the most attention, looking into the car, expecting the appearance of the school director. However, the driver just walked straight past her and towards me. "Master, get in the car. Mr. Fong is waiting for you." The driver's voice was calm and steady, without a trace of fluctuation. Jessica was stunned. Her mouth opened wide enough to fit an egg in. She was completely stunned, filled with shock and embarrassment. "You?" She looked at me in disbelief. "Mr. Fong, are you the school director's son?" I didn't respond immediately, but smiled at Olivia. "Let's go, miss. I'll take you back first and explain to you later." I held Olivia's hand, with a hint of relief in my tone. Olivia's expression remained cold, but her eyes changed slightly, as if she was a little relaxed. Before she could say anything, I had already led her to the car. However, just when we took a few steps, Jessica suddenly shouted from behind, "Mr. Fong, it's me. I'm Jessica. There's a misunderstanding. Don't misunderstand me." She almost rushed over, but tripped because her skirt was too big and fell heavily to the ground. Looking at her embarrassed appearance, I couldn't help but sneer. "Miss Jessica, I'm very poor, so stay away from me." Jessica's face turned red, and the sweat on her face had ruined her makeup. She was so anxious that her face turned red and she could hardly breathe. "Mr. Fong, it's all a misunderstanding. It's really a misunderstanding. That bitch Olivia didn't tell me the truth." She reached out and grabbed my trouser leg, desperately trying to hold me back, but was unceremoniously taken away by the bodyguard beside me. She cried and screamed along the way, looking extremely embarrassed, attracting the attention of many passersby. Soon, the scandal between Jessica and director Sue spread throughout the school. Her farce was like a gust of wind that blew into the ears of the entire school. Soon, the story between me and Jessica quickly became a topic of conversation after dinner. I didn't expect William to be the son of the school director. I never expected that. William has such a strong background. No wonder he is always so low-key. I sent Olivia back to the dormitory. I felt helpless about the short separation. Olivia looked at me at that moment, and there seemed to be some expectation in her eyes. Her gaze made me feel a little uncomfortable. I forced myself to pretend to be calm and said, "Wait for me. I'll be back tomorrow." She nodded and blinked her clear eyes. Olivia's figure in the rearview mirror gradually disappeared. For the first time, I felt an inexplicable irritation in my heart. It seemed that her figure was getting smaller and smaller, but I didn't want to leave her. Jessica and director Sue to the principal at a dinner party. This unexpected gift instantly made the principal's face turn extremely ugly. Obviously, director Sue would soon pay the price for his behavior. As the principal left angrily, I felt somewhat relieved. Those dirty deals and the people behind the scenes finally got the exposure they deserved. On the day of the ceremony, Olivia was busy preparing. I couldn't help but admire her professional attitude. Although my father kept urging me to attend the dinner with the principal as soon as possible, I still decided to stay with Olivia to make sure everything went well for her. However, on the eve of the ceremony, Olivia's dress was torn. A perfect dress had a problem at the most critical moment. Obviously, this was not a coincidence. Ow, how could this happen? The girl in charge seemed extremely anxious. Everything was fine when I checked yesterday. How could this suddenly? Don't worry, I'll take care of the problem. I interrupted her calmly. Go on getting ready. Leave the skirt issue to me. I turned to Olivia and saw that she was frowning, obviously worried about this sudden question. Her eyes said it all. She had tried her best to do it perfectly, but she didn't expect to encounter such trouble. Don't worry, I'll take care of the skirt problem. I patted her shoulder and gave her a reassuring look. Just focus on the ceremony and leave the rest to me. Olivia's body seemed to relax, and I saw her nod, so I turned around and contacted my driver. Soon, a dress similar to the original one was delivered. This new dress was exquisitely crafted and gorgeous, and was in no way inferior to the previous design. Olivia put on her new dress. The whole dressing room burst into exclamations. She's so beautiful, just like a fairy. The ceremony started. I stood backstage and watched Olivia walk down the stage. She was full of confidence in every step. Her eyes were as bright as stars, shining in everyone's sight. Her smile was like the summer sun, lighting up the entire stage. I originally intended to give her this dress as a birthday present. I watched her standing on the stage, and a complex emotion welled up in my heart. Although the gift was no longer important, seeing her feel happy because of herself, I felt an indescribable satisfaction in my heart. The ceremony continued, and I felt that the hustle and bustle was a little unbearable, so I quietly left the crowd and walked to the lounge. There was an unusual fragrance in the air, and the slightly sweet smell made me feel a little dizzy. Gradually, my consciousness began to blur, and the feeling of heat in my body became stronger and stronger, as if I was being pulled by some invisible force. He tugged at his collar impatiently, revealing a delicate clavicle and faintly visible pectoral muscles. At this moment, the door of the lounge was pushed open, and a figure slowly approached me. I turned my head slightly, and my heart couldn't help but tighten. Jessica appeared in my sight. She was wearing a tight underwear, heavy makeup, and light steps, but with a provocation that could not be ignored. She came close to me, put her hands on my shoulders, and quickly threw herself into my arms. William, look at me. What does Olivia mean by that ice cube? Her voice was low and teasing, and the heat hit my face. I subconsciously pushed her away and said coldly, Don't touch me. You cut Olivia's skirt. Jessica didn't take it seriously. Instead, she sat on top of me, covered her mouth, and giggled. Her provocative tone was still full of arrogance. So what? I lost Olivia's scholarship last year. She was so hypocritical and looked down on me. So I'll teach her a lesson. Her voice was low and full of provocation, as if she thought that every move she made could easily defeat me. However, her next step was exactly what she fell into, a trap from which she could not escape. Just as Jessica lowered her head to kiss me, the door of the lounge was suddenly pushed open. The school leaders and a group of people stood at the door, with Olivia and a group of classmates watching behind them. Jessica screamed and immediately rolled off me, grabbing the curtain to cover herself. Her face turned from angry to shocked, and her eyes darted around. Why are you here? Aren't you supposed to be watching the show in the front? The head of the school looked gloomy, obviously not expecting such a situation. Jessica rolled her eyes and suddenly rushed to the head of the school, with a trace of calculation in her eyes. Teacher, William forced me to do it. His father is the school director. I dare not resist. Woo, I won't live anymore. I watched coldly, watching Jessica struggling desperately, and sneered in my heart. Olivia looked at me, silently ran over to button me up, and handed me a glass of water to relieve the effects of the medicine I had just suffered. The school leaders evacuated the other students and warned them not to spread what happened today. Seeing Jessica's painful expression, I curled my lips slightly. Jessica, Are you still lying now? I walked up to her and said lightly, "We all heard what you said just now." I calmly told the truth. Ever since Olivia's skirt was cut, I installed a hidden camera. These things were broadcast live on the big screen at the ceremony. Jessica's face turned pale instantly. She could hardly believe that what she had done was exposed so thoroughly. Impossible. She trembled all over. Her lips trembled slightly, and her face was full of fear. The hospital leader was silent for a moment, with a hint of disgust in his eyes. "The hospital will deal with this matter seriously," he whispered. "Everyone please disperse first." His words were cold and harsh, and it was obvious that he had made a decision. The news spread like an avalanche. Jessica's evil deeds were exposed, and Director Sue was also implicated. Jessica did not gain any benefits, but was directly faced with the fate of being fired. She herself knew that after such a big incident, there was no room for maneuver. When Director Sue learned that he would be investigated, he immediately sought Jessica's help. However, Jessica no longer relied on him. She took out evidence of Director Sue's corruption and threatened him. "If you don't help me, I will expose you." Faced with such pressure, Director Sue was filled with fear, but he soon realized that if he continued to entangle with Jessica, he would not be able to escape. Just as he was about to go to his leader to seek leniency, he received unexpected news. The decision to fire Director Sue had been issued. Ryan still ran rampant in the school, but after losing the protection of Director Sue, he could no longer do whatever he wanted. All the old and new grudges were settled at once. Ryan was beaten unconscious by a group of people in front of the nightclub, and his clothes were stripped off and thrown on the roadside. In order to show that the school was dealing with it seriously, it decided to criticize it in the newspaper, which completely destroyed the reputation of Director Sue and Jessica. This incident completely changed the atmosphere of the entire school. Many people no longer feared Ryan, but instead became disgusted with his bullying behavior. Some even laughed at his former power, but now he has ended up like this. As time went by, March 24th finally arrived, Olivia's birthday. After the ceremony, there seemed to be some kind of unspoken understanding between her and me, as if we had tacitly accepted our relationship. However, I always felt that something was missing. So, on Olivia's birthday, I carefully planned a confession ceremony. This time, there was no embarrassment or coercion. Olivia held the flowers I gave her and smiled as bright as the sun. Our relationship seemed to have officially sublimated at this moment. 3 years later, Olivia and I got engaged in front of our family and friends. Our friends joked. I didn't expect that the least promising couple would end up together. The prodigal brother and the cool sister are the couple who have gone the furthest. Olivia's temperament also changed from being cold and aloof to becoming more lovely and playful. Seeing her change so much, I couldn't help but feel a warm emotion in my heart. After the celebration, we each went back to the garage to drive. As I drove out of the garage, I saw a familiar figure. Ryan was standing at the security post. He was hunched over, weak all over, and looked listless. The young man who was once so popular in school has now lost everything due to drugs and his family property. Standing at the security post, he no longer looks as energetic as before. I sat in the back seat of the Maybach, holding Olivia in my arms as the car drove slowly by. Ryan's image gradually disappeared in the rearview mirror, and I felt an indescribable emotion in my heart. After all we've been through, the people who were there at the beginning are still with me.